Okay, hello everybody. So today I'll talk about a little bit about the Lave and March reading and what essentially it means. It's actually quite important reading. In previous lectures, I talked about Macretus and about how there are essentially five problems with his traditional approach, and then I looked at what he meant by sort of the formal analysis of institutions in the traditional approach, and how we move beyond that to incorporate the phenomena and the causes in civil society and the market that affect political outcomes. Okay, so now, and also Macretus's argument for a systematic, i.e. a scientific approach to the study of comparative politics. So now we move to Lave and March. So what does it mean? One of the ways to understand, when we saw a scientific approach is based on theories and good theories, and so how do we create, find, understand theories? Well, one of the ways to do that is to look at building a model of social reality or social and political phenomena. And Lave and March argue that you can do so by observing, speculating, and modeling. So this leads to a sort of a four-part process for a step model in trying to determine the cause of social phenomena. And we'll be doing this over the course of the semester. Now, as the reading suggested, there were sort of the model building process proceeded in four steps. The first step is to observe some facts. Now, often you'll be given facts, right? You know, you'll read the newspaper article, for instance, or a journal article that says that I don't know, child mortality, for instance, is higher in the United States than it is in countries in Western Europe. So that is your social fact. Okay, that's your social fact. So once you have that fact, you then begin to that begins the model building process. The second step is to look at the facts as though they were the end result of some unknown process. Okay, so what process do you think could have the end result of which could have created this difference between child mortality rates across countries, for instance? Okay, and then once you have come up with a particular process, you think speculate about a particular process, then you try to understand, well, in order to get a good theory, what you have to do is move beyond that specific sort of social fact to something that's related, for instance. So what you're saying essentially is, look, if my speculation as to what process has produced this result above, right here, for instance, in this example, differences in mortality rates across countries, then if that is true, if this process is really true, what else can I sort of deduce from that? Okay, so what else? So let's assume, I don't know, for whatever reason, I think that child mortality has something to do, or differences in child mortality has something to do with, I don't know, let's say political turnout. So the more likely people are to turn out for elections, the more likely that the government is to implement policies that deal with child mortality. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a speculation. So if that's true, then what else can we think about? Well, what else? What other kind of results can we expect from differences in voter turnout, for instance? Well, I don't know. I mean, one is maybe that the higher voter turnout is in countries, and given the fact that we know that the poorer you are, the less likely you are to go to the polls, then maybe the higher the turnout is, that means that more poorer people are voting, and maybe politicians then are much more likely to implement policies that help poor people. That could be. So we may find that not only childhood mortality, but maybe overall poverty is lower in these countries. So that's an implication. So then that's a deduction from the results of step two. So we can actually then test that. We can sort of look to see if that's in fact the case. And if it is, right, then we know that we have a very good model and a fairly good theory of political life. And the more further results that we can deduce from this initial speculation about the process, the stronger our theory is. Okay, and if for instance the deduction of our result in step three, for instance, that about turnout is in fact contradicted by the reality, then what we have to do is then we have to sort of go back and produce new models or adjust